and welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship. Hey there, friends. Welcome back. We are super excited that you're here again listening to what has now become part 2 of the marriage Q&A with Brian and Heather. So just to remind you, we've pulled some questions from the Prepare Enrich conversation cards deck. And these are questions that I think many married couples might have. And maybe you've not talked about these things. Maybe you have. And maybe it's conversations that are just hard and tricky to have. And so we want to help you kind of navigate those things to become stronger as a couple, closer to each other, build that intimacy and trust with each other. Yeah. What do you think, Brian?
I've had a lot of fun doing this.
I know.
I think you just said it, but this is a more off the cuff episode than what we normally do. Yeah. It's a lot of times we have this big plan and we've got all kinds of things written out and bullet points and
not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Just, and I think this kind of mirrors what a marriage should be like. It should be a lot of just genuine, organic conversations of things that kind of just pop up. Situations pop up and you got to have conversations about them. And a lot of times it's not about, well, let me go to the bedroom and journal about this for an hour and then I'll come out and talk to you about it. No, sometimes let's just talk now and just see what happens.
Just talk from your heart. Yeah. So we're going to answer these questions, possibly about ourselves and giving you some examples that way, or things that, we see with couples that we work with in mentoring, or just maybe we'll give you some ideas of, kind of a roadmap of things that you could do. Yeah,
I'm ready to get started.
Okay.
Who's going to ask the first question?
I'm going to ask you the first question. Okay. All right, Brian, do you ever feel unreasonably moody? And if so, how does this affect your partner?
I mean, I would hope to say that everyone probably has some moodiness at some points or another. I mean, we're human beings. We all have emotions. We all go through some things. Now, I know some people tend to sort of stuff things down and maybe lock them away and throw away the key. And so they always look like they're just, very, I guess, stoic and nothing really bothers them. But I mean, again, deep down, I think we all can experience this.
We can. So how does that affect your partner? Like if you're moody, how does it affect me? Or...
Yeah. I mean, we often talk to people about, hey, don't let your partner's feelings and upset affect how you feel, but we can't help it. I mean, we're a married couple and our lives are intertwined. The Bible talks about how the two become one flesh.
Right.
So that's a very intertwined relationship. And so it's hard not to. But yeah, I think the big thing is when you're upset about something, again, try as best you can to talk about it. Or I will say, and this comes from my own experience, that sometimes maybe I am moody or upset about something. I either, number one, need to talk about it, or number two, I need to let it go. The third option of letting it fester and simmer and just sort of being passive aggressive or, just walking around, kind of stomping around or moping, things like that. I mean, that's not appropriate. And have I done those things? Of course I have. I'm a human being.
Haven't we all?
And I'm a work in progress when it comes to that. But again, I try to tell myself if I'm in a funky mood, I either need to talk about it or I need to let it go. Right.
There's also this thing called triggers. So can you talk about what triggers your moodiness? Like what do couples need to share or discuss there? Because I think sometimes we all have these triggers of things that just set us off, you know?
I mean, a lot of times triggers have developed from something that we've gone through in childhood or maybe in a previous relationship, I mean, it could be, maybe my parents don't ever encourage me, or maybe they didn't encourage me as a child, and now I've become super sensitive to not hearing encouragement. And maybe a normal person would think you encourage me enough, but for me, maybe it's become not enough because I didn't get any as a child, and so I'm always aware of it. And even though maybe you encourage me a couple times throughout the day because you didn't do it 5 or 10 times, that now all of a sudden I'm triggered and I feel like, you know what, I don't think you appreciate me. I don't think you care about me. And what the trigger is I'm really probably upset with my parents and the way they treated me as a child. And I'm not saying this isn't a situation that I've dealt with personally. I'm just saying that this could be something that could happen. And we've heard that from some couples that we've worked with. So, yeah, I think, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I think that if you know what the triggers are for your spouse, don't push those buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you know what's going to set them off, it might be a look that you give or something that you say. You know, it's like, why go there? It's just going to create some havoc, and you could avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know what? I just thought about, remember the pie chart that we discovered about the things that are important to human beings when it comes to communication. There's words, tone, body language, and somehow researchers, scientists did some kind of study and determined that each one of these actually has a different weight. And do you know, I guess I will ask you, I think you know this because we work on this, but what do you think is the thing that carries the most weight? Is it words, tone, or body language?
It is the body language.
Body language, yes.
That's what we see.
Yeah. Because I think our eyes...
We're visual. It's what we see.
Right. You know,
and I think in the moment, I think it's the words that we're saying, we're just talking over each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the third one?
Tone.
The tone. Yeah, our tone is off, and the words that we're saying we're not even hearing each other. Mm-hmm. It is that body language, the stomping off, the crossing of the arms, the eye rolling, the
sighing.
Yes.
Or maybe the tone again sounds a little bit different. They say that body language is 55%. Tone is 38%, and words are only the remaining 7% of what we remember. So, so body language and tone can be triggers right along with words.
Right.
So something to think about.
And I just want to add one more thing, and then we can go on to the next question. But if you do notice that your spouse is just very moody, and it seems unreasonable, ask them, are you feeling okay? I'm getting the sense that you've had a rough day and you're just, I don't know. Are you feel like you're just coming across kind of grumpy? You want to say it in a loving way, not an attacking way. So that's kind of what I try to do there. But give them an opportunity to look at themselves like, yeah, I am being a little ridiculous right now, and this is why. I've had the worst day at work, car ran out of gas on the way to, just so I was late, whatever. Dig a little deeper into your spouse's emotions and maybe help them. It might help them discover why they're sort of behaving a certain way. So yeah,
that's good.
That
and
helps.
You can even, I would say one other thing, and then we'll move on. You can even ask, hey, can I ask you a question about kind of something I'm seeing? I promise you I'm doing this from a place of love. I really care about you.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we talk about something? Sometimes you can set it up like that.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to spiritual beliefs.
That's a good one.
All right. This question is, how do you rely on your spiritual beliefs during difficult times? And you can talk about this personally or in things that we've seen with couples we worked with, or a combination, whatever you'd like there.
Yeah. I mean, Brian and I, we share the same spiritual beliefs, and we, during difficult times, we go to the throne room of God. We pray and seek wisdom, and we seek healing if that's what we're praying for. Whatever it is that's going on, we are always taking these needs to the Lord. In prayer, we do this together. We do this separately. I think it strengthens us. But I also want to add, don't just rely on your spiritual beliefs when times are difficult. You want to do this when times are good as well. And sadly for Christians, I think it's very common that when things are going well, we've kind of stopped praying about things or placing God first. I mean, I know I'm not the only one that's been through that, but sometimes we do. And it's like, oh my goodness, as soon as something happens, we're like, oh, where is God when I need him? I need to go pray. I need to go pray. So just want to throw that out there that you don't want to just rely on God when times are difficult, but all the time. And when they are difficult, go to God together as a couple, praying to him. And
yeah. And I like what you said there about going to him and when times are good, because I mean, think about it. If you went to your best friend all the time about all the problems, and you went out, knocked on their door, and you walked in and you said, okay, I've got a laundry list of my problems I need to go over with you. I mean,
that's pretty sad if that's all you're talking about, right, is the bad stuff happening.
Right. And is your friend going to be real happy that, I don't think so. So there needs to be a balance. You need to walk in and say, hey, let's just talk about how the good things that are going on, or just how much I appreciate you. And then, oh, by the way, I do have a couple of things that I'm upset about. I need your advice or whatever. So yeah, I think that's just as important to do. And I think also, when you've exhausted kind of everything, I mean, I don't know if it specifically says this in the Bible, but I think it just says to keep praying. I mean,
yeah, just keep praying.
Yeah, we keep praying. And two, I think what gives us hope a lot of times is looking back on our lives and knowing that what were some of the good things that came out of trials, or how did God carry us through?
Yeah, that's very important to look back and see, almost think of them as like monuments. You go to Washington, D.C., and you can see monuments all over the place. Why? So that we don't forget where we came from as a country, and the men that these monuments are dedicated to, the work that they did to develop this country. So those are monuments. And so our marriages have monuments to the trials that we've come through together. Mm-hmm. We can look back on them and see how God brought us through,
Yeah.
And, I think that if you... as you're sharing spiritual beliefs, especially, and just praying to God during those difficult times, that is also what's going to help you make the best decisions. If there's something pretty serious, hardcore that you're praying for, believing God for, it's going to bring you together as a couple as well, and help you come to a good, strong decision.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is part of this here that we're asking, but I was just thinking about, you may have some situations that you don't completely agree on with each other regarding spiritual beliefs. Like maybe you both are Christians, but maybe there's a difference in belief around, I don't know, maybe alcohol. Maybe one of you believes that no, I should have no alcohol, and the other is like, a couple drinks here and there are okay. I mean, again, those are situations where communication is very important. And again, continue to pray about it. Just what does the Lord say to both of you? Pray about it individually, pray about it together. I mean, I think we're kind of emphasizing prayer here. Definitely. Is probably the most powerful thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. When,
Absolutely.
To circle back to the original question again, how do you rely on your spiritual beliefs during difficult times? I think prayer is a big part of that for us.
All right. We're going to move on to another question. So, Brian, what does your partner do that makes you feel that he or she is not listening?
Oh, so this is all about communication, right?
Yes, communication.
Yeah. Communication is probably the number one thing that couples mention as being an issue.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, we're creatures that communicate with each other. I think we communicate on a much higher level than any other species in the world does, or at least that's my opinion. But so this is very important. Communicating, speaking and listening, and we talk about a lot with couples about this. I think there's probably several different things about this. When you're listening to respond, not listening to understand, that's probably an example of when you don't feel like your spouse is really listening. Right. So, it might be, it makes me feel really loved when we go on walks together. And if you respond immediately with, I don't have time for walks, I'm really busy, it's going to kind of come across like, do you even hear my heart here? Are you really listening to what this means to me? So Again, listening to respond I don't know. That's one example. I have some others probably. Do you have a thought about what does your partner do that makes you feel like he or she is not listening?
If you're on your phone and I'm trying to tell you something.
Yes.
If you...
We don't ever do that. We're never on our phones ever.
Boy, stop lying. If you ask me a question about something that I just told you 3 minutes prior, you might not have been listening.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm watching TV and you're telling me something, I'm likely not listening. I cannot multitask that well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can multitask, but come on. If I'm reading a book and you're telling me something, I'm not listening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those kinds of things. I think those are common things that we all do. Scroll through our phone, have the radio on, singing it or whatever, like reading something, even cooking. I could be cooking and really focused in on, whatever concoction I'm creating that I'm not really listening to you. So yeah, so we have to, I think, realize that. And,
that's right. Yep.
Put down those things that are distracting so that we can listen to one another.
And I think silence when somebody else is talking, I mean, it's good to be silent, but when they stop talking, it would be nice to say something. We hear this a lot where somebody will talk and then the other person just kind of stays silent. And that comes across as like, do you even care?
It does.
Like,
yes.
Don't think you care. I just spent all of this time telling you something really important to me. And you're just like, you're staring at me or you're staring off into space and you're not. And then what we'll hear a lot of times is if you try to say something toward that, do you have anything to say? Are you listening to me? Then all of a sudden it gets defensive. Well, yes, or I've got something else on my mind, or yes, I'm listening and I'm just trying to take it all in and process. And of course, maybe that's happening, but it just can kind of go haywire.
I agree.
When there's silence.
I agree. That's happened to me many times with you or with other people. It doesn't matter where. So this could happen with anyone besides your spouse, where I am not necessarily pouring my heart out, but maybe I'm sharing a story of something that happened throughout my day, and I get no response, even while I'm talking. Like if I'm interested in a story that someone's telling me, I'm giving those kind of head nods and verbal responses of, yeah, oh, whoa, those kind of responses. That lets the speaker know I'm interested. And if I'm telling a story and I'm getting none of that, and then you can hear a pin drop when I'm done, I've been known to make a comment like, wow, so that's what it's like to talk to a wall. Okay. Now, not necessarily the best comment because it does bring out that defensiveness, but it happens. I think we are all raising our hands now saying, yes, we've done that. We've been there. And it's just, yeah. So it's important to listen when someone's talking, even if it's not an important issue. It can just be sharing something that you saw on your way to work.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of goes to the sort of the opposite of that first question we asked when we were talking about how does your partner or spouse make you feel when they're not listening. What can you do to let your partner know that you do care and you are listening? And you just mentioned a little bit. One thing I will also say, for example, you're a couple that one of you're in completely different lines of work. Maybe one of you's an engineer and the other is a childcare worker. Well, the engineer who wants to talk about their day and all the minutia of what happened and how they drew up plans for a plumbing system. I don't even know. I'm not an engineer, so I'm making this up. A lot of times the other person will be kind of glazed over and it's just kind of like, in your head, you're probably like, I don't know what you're talking about. And maybe it starts to get a little frustrating. What I would encourage you to do there is focus on the feelings that you think this person is bringing across to you. So maybe, again, they're talking about plumbing, but maybe they were frustrated at a coworker, or they were irritated that something wasn't working right, or they were, sad that maybe the boss was yelling at them for no reason. Focus on the emotions. So it could be something as simple as like, wow, I'm so sorry that, your boss yelled at you. I know that would sadden me, or that would upset me, because it sounds like you're upset about that. So do you see how I'm responding to that? I'm not getting into like, oh, well then how did you do the elbow bend on the pipe on that, or what, because again, I'm not going to have any idea what you're talking about. So focusing on the emotions, that's one way that you can help your partner feel like you are listening. So just wanted to add that. Have we beat this one to death? Do you have anything else on this one?
No. Okay.
So now I am going to give you the final question of the day.
All right, I'm ready for it.
This is a tough one. Actually, we're going to talk about finances. And the question for you, Heather, is do you ever experience control issues around money in your marriage? And if so, can you share? And once again, as always, this can be more of a personal story. It can be something that you hear from couples that we work with, or a combination.
Yes. With you, no, I don't feel control issues at all there.
Okay.
Stop sweating. You're good. You're good. In my first marriage, there were major control issues and there was financial betrayal, a lot of it. So, so I've kind of been on both ends of that. So you might find yourself in a marriage where you feel like your spouse is controlling the money. And I think it comes down to communicating about that. So everything that we talk about, Brian, don't you feel like it always goes back to communication?
It does.
Totally does.
Yes.
And this is no different. So you want to look at money and have a discussion of like, what does money mean to you? How did you grow up around money? Did you grow up with money or without money? Were you in debt? What was your viewpoint of it? Did you have
a lot of anxiety around money?
Yeah, all of it. So I think that those are good conversations to have. And maybe the person that is kind of controlling those purse strings in kind of an unhealthy way grew up with no money. And so he wants to make sure, or she wants to make sure, that you're never in debt again or never without again. You want to get to the root of each other's feelings about money and why you kind of feel that way. And maybe there's some healing that has to take place. Maybe there's just things that you need to learn about other ways to manage money. It could be that one of you is so much of a spender that the other one has no choice but to control the money as a saver. So again, good conversations there. Doing something like the financial, what's it called?
Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey.
Yes, something like that to help you kind of get out of debt or make plans for your money. You do need to, like if you're in a marriage where there's control issues for money, you need to talk about that with your spouse, about what your goals are, where you see your money going, how can one of you sort of let go a little bit, and one of you maybe step up a little bit, and things like that. So you've got to work together in that.
And I would say transparency is a big one. And
that's good.
I've had a lot of different viewpoints about checking accounts and whether to be separate or together. And we actually did a podcast episode on that, I believe, or did we do a blog article?
We did a
podcast episode. Mm-hmm. I've had some differing viewpoints and opinions. When I was younger, I always felt like everything needed to be together. You need to have one account together. Then I had this period of, we were working with so many couples where they had separate accounts. And I think that's just a younger generation kind of a thing. I think we are Gen Xers. I feel like the greatest generation, which is our grandparents, the baby boomers, which are our parents, and our generation typically would do things shared. Right. But then I do believe our children's generation and further down, what is that, Gen Y and the millennials, they seem to have this thing about keeping things separate. And I used to be of the opinion that this is okay as long as there's transparency and you know what's going on. But I've even kind of come to this place now where I'm not even sure about that anymore, because what I've noticed is even though there's transparency, there's still discussions about like my money, your money, and there's not this we. And so I think it still causes some issues. I mean, again, I'm not telling you what to do here as the listener. You just, obviously I want you to work it out together. But if you're noticing that you have things that are separated and there's transparency, you can each get into your accounts and see what's going on. if you still notice that you're talking about things in terms of I and, my and your and, and you're getting into arguments, I mean, maybe it could be time to talk about what about bringing it all together.
Right.
But, just like you said, Heather, can be a situation where if maybe one of you is a spender and you're, not really able to control that very well for whatever reason, then again, maybe a separation would be better. Again, there's not an easy answer here. But, certainly control issues can be, I think, something that can be direct and purposeful, but then also they can kind of be indirect. I know in our own marriage, I'm the one that typically balances the accounts and
yes, thank you.
takes care of everything. But what we did this a few months ago, I created a spreadsheet, which I love creating spreadsheets. Yes. And I listed off every bill that we have, every account that we have, the website that you can go to, the username and the password. And so at any moment, and we have a firebox down in our basement, at any moment you can walk right down there, grab that sheet of paper, and you can go to any account that we have and you can look it up and you can check balances and see what's going on. So that's a way that we're transparent with each other.
Right.
Even though you typically aren't involved in getting in there and looking at it on a day-to-day basis.
But it works for us.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, wow. We got through another set of questions. I love it.
I know.
This is fantastic. I'm almost thinking we should just do this every once in a while. This is kind of fun.
I think so too. Y'all might get more of these. I mean, This was good. Today we covered partner behavior, spiritual beliefs, communication, and finances, and just answered some kind of common questions that married people have. So I hope that you've heard some things that you can take with you that were helpful. And yeah,
it's very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, just being genuine, being organic, and just letting the conversation flow. That's exactly what we did today. There was no scripting of any of this, other than we did look at the questions beforehand, but we didn't think about how we'd answer them. We did that, one, because we didn't want to be fumbling around with questions and saying, oh, that's not a good one, let's go to the next one or whatever. But so with that, we are going to end the episode, and we've got a couple of things that we will mention to you before we go. The communication cards that we used, you're not able to get those. Those are for certified facilitators of the Prepare and Rich Marriage program. But I'm putting a link for couples communications cards that are available on Amazon. There's plenty that I'm sure are just as good or maybe even better that you can go and purchase. And then we also have a free guide called 10 Practical Communication Strategies. And this guide will help you as a couple have more effective and connecting conversations with each other.
We also have a blog article that's Financial Goals 301. We'd love for you to check that out. That might kind of give you a little bit of a roadmap of how to create some goals for the money that you have together.
That's great. And thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate your time, and we will talk to you on our next episode. Take care until then.